um, highly experienced cloud engineer. In fact, when you read his profile, you know that he actually has a whole lot of things to discuss with us today. He was supposed to be with us in our infrastructure meetup the last time, but unfortunately for us, I think from our own end, the invite mail did not get to him. So I thought he would get angry. I reached out to him again, and then he still accept to join us today, even when the mail still get to him very late. He's a very humane person, and I really appreciate his presence today. So he's going to talk to us. He has experience, system administration, he has software engineering. He also has a very good experience with cloud infrastructure. He is AWS DevOps engineer, and we are going to learn a whole lot from him today. Before us is Philip Owotemo. I don't know if I murdered your name. I pronounced that correctly. Thank you very much for joining us.
Wow. I'm really surprised that. Anyway, thank you so much. My name is Philip Owotemo, like rightly said. Sorry, I cannot display my face. I'm not in Nigeria at the moment, so where I am, it's the time zone. I think about 7 hours ahead. So I'm just on my singlet. I'm on my computer working. About me, I'm a developer. I've been on IT, I think, for the past 12 years. You know, I work in a couple of countries and all that. And I bought into DevOps 2020 during the COVID. I've got friends that told me DevOps. I mean, basically, first of all, I was into Linux, and which is a good foundation for becoming a cloud engineer. Because basically, all the cloud, all the infrastructure, all the code, everything runs on Linux operating system. So you have to have that, not so much, but at least the basics, know how Linux works. Because your Node.js, your Python, this framework, they runs better on Linux operating system, which are Ubuntu, Red Hat, etc. So basically, that foundation is very, very important. So I did that 2020, and then from there, I asked myself, which cloud, which of the, basically there are a couple of them, but the three basic or four basic ones which are very high on demands, which most companies put their infrastructure, AWS, Azure, GCP. Some other ones, Oracle and all that, but these three basic ones are the ones I try to. So, and I felt, let me do AWS. So I stick on AWS. And I mean, it's been great. It's not really your skills, Basically, for me, IT, I see that if you have a secret, that's how I keep telling people that comes to me and my experience. I've been opportune to meet some good IT tech guys, They just have one secret which they know. And such things, they come from your rigorous working, doing your own project, learning process, more of your personal projects. As you're learning, one way of learning this IT, if maybe you are doing tutorials from somebody, as you're doing, build your own personal projects. As you're learning to be a DevOps engineer from scratch. You're watching the tutorials on Udemy. Have your own side project you're doing. So as you are doing through the guy's project, do your own. So that's where it gives you so much understanding because in that way, you won't rush to finish the tutorials on the app. Maybe it's a 4 hours, 15 hours tutorials. You're looking at, okay, I want to finish it in the next 2 weeks. Start looking for a job. You need to know what you are doing. Basically, most interviews I've gone through, they will ask you this, but if you know what you are doing, you can answer based on your understanding, not even based on the principles which are there. Just if you know what you are doing, just so that's doing your paper project, it helps you uh to to be able to understand the process, you know. So like what you asked now, like basically I just had one interview now and I'm not very good at Azure. So they were asking me, it's a senior DevOps role. So they asked me, let me see the question the guy asked me. 1 second. And how I answered it. So he asked me just a few minutes ago, so he asked me, uh, okay, do you work with, okay, he said, how many years of experience do you have with DevOps, with Azure? He knows I'm more in AWS. Okay, now I asked, and okay, here's my answer. I said, I have experience with Azure. I said, but however, I can use infrastructure as a code using tools like Terraform, for Azure. I'm not very good at Azure, but I've done Azure on few projects. Because basically, most companies, they have their own different cloud environments. But the good thing about infrastructure as a code, you can use tools like Terraform to provision resources and maybe you're putting this database on this side. You can provision your resources with multi-Terraform, with multi-cloud infrastructure, you know. Uh, so I just answer that way. So basically, but the main thing is that you have to be good at one thing. It's fine. You must have various cloud experiences, Azure, GCP, but you have to be known with one, and all this boils down to your own personal uh, projects, So uh, yeah, that's just basically the whole thing, But my advice is that be known for one thing, and uh, while you cut across various, because basically, if you are saying, okay, let me do Azure, let me do GCP, let me do AWS, fine, you have opportunities, but one thing I've come to my little experience, your own will come for you. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
So basically, your opportunity will come in whatever you are doing. If you are doing GCP, that's your major environment you want to base on. Know GCP to the core. You will have an opportunity to uh, work opportunity on that uh, your your uh, area of expertise in the cloud environment. Mine is AWS, but in as time goes on, I've done projects personal and with companies on GCP with Azure, but I'm not very good at that. That's not mine. But however, some companies want to have multi-environments for security reasons. They want to draw from here, and also maybe the project manager wants to like, okay, let's do this one, and also the company's budget depends on what they want to achieve. But for me, AWS works for me, and I've spent quite some time on AWS services. In fact, basically, I'm working in a project now. Uh, I build applications, mobile app. That's been uh, my first IT. My startup with IT was HTML, CSS. Later, I went to Java. Now I'm doing Flutter. I build a lot of application mobile apps with Flutter. So that has also helped me along the line to help my DevOps journey. Because the company I work, I also run my business too on the side in Nigeria because uh, home is home. So I run my business too in Nigeria. But over here, I try to work in companies and all that, try to, look after the family and all that. So it helps to have in my for a take home, just make sure you major on one cloud environment. It's very, very important. That's if they can call you anytime, it's okay. Let's do this. You can say, okay, this one is my field. I know this one too. If you open my eyes, if you close my eyes and tell me, AWS, what do you do? There's a challenge here. Monitoring tools, I can tell you, okay, go here, check here. Have you checked here? I could be on my phone and say, okay, check this place. Have you checked? Check here. I can tell because I know AWS to the core. My little experience with AWS. I know in my own little time of AWS, I can tell you to an extent that look, you can do this, you can do that. So to summarize, just make sure you have one area of expertise. Other ones can just be on the side, but at least this one, you can call him on this one and, he can help us do one or two things on that area of expertise. So thank you so much. Any question? You can ask me any question now.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you. That was insightful. He has mentioned, I've talked about the power of concentration, because abroad, they're actually looking for a high technical skill in a particular, it's not like in Nigeria where a company will be recruiting somebody to be the developer, the cloud, blah, blah, everything all together in one form, right? So if you are a specialist in one cloud environment, in one cloud service provider, in fact, this big enterprise actually looking for you. And that's an interesting one. Thank you very much for this insightful thoughts. We are going to get to question and answer section after we speak about multi-cloud concept, right? So I'm going to share my screen. Please keep your questions intact. Maybe you can drop it in the chat box or you can write them down so that after the second speaker, you can ask your question. You can channel your question to any of the speaker. Any of the speaker can provide answers for you, right? Going to share my screen now, and we are going to talk about multi-clouds. Sorry, confirm you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen now.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm going to talk briefly on unlocking the power of multi-cloud, right? From the first speaker, we've heard how is important and how he shares life stories, how we get into tech. You can follow that template. It's more like he has given us a predefined template to how to succeed in tech, right? Because he's a successful person when it comes to tech, right? He has been in tech for several years. You see, he's not in Nigeria, right? is that we want to see what a multi-cloud is all about, and why should we embrace key benefits of multi-cloud, and then strategies for implementing multi-cloud, and challenges and best practice, right? Using more than one cloud service provider to run one architect, right? One architecture, basically, right? So there is this misconceptions with multi-cloud and hybrid cloud, right? In hybrid clouds, you have some of your workloads on-prem, and then you have others in the cloud. You have others in the cloud with the cloud service providers, right? But multi-cloud has nothing to do with on-prem in any way. It's basically you have one architecture. Maybe you run an e-commerce website, and then your database is somewhere with GCP, and your main architecture, your main infrastructure is with AWS, and then you are running other analytics service with GCP, IBM, or Azure, or any other cloud service provider, basically. But it's still one architecture, right? That's what multi-cloud is all about, right? So why is enterprise start looking multi-cloud? Why are they thinking that it is not enough to rely on one cloud service provider, but you have to distribute your workload across service providers, right? One of the reasons that prompt them to adopt multi-cloud is one, vendor locked in limits you from doing a lot of things. Those service providers you see, AWS, GCP, Azure, they have their own area of strength, right? If you talk about analytics, give it to Google. If you talked about infrastructure, you give it to AWS. And when you talk about security management, identity management, and all that, you give it to Azure. And then IBM is there. So if you want to take advantage of this thing, implement into your architecture to have a robust, resilient architecture, you need to look into multi-cloud, right? So vendor locked in this perspective is when you start using one of the services, you don't have other options than to continue using that services. And let me give you one of the example. We all here using Gmail, right? Google has already locked us into using Gmail, into using Google service for life. If you want to continue using that your name, the Gmail, you must remain in Google. You must remain in that Google service. And if you don't want again, it means that you are going to create a fresh account in another service, maybe Yahoo or Hotmail and all that, but you are going to lose your Gmail. That's what we refer to as vendor locked in. You have already been locked in. And then when you use most of these, like cloud pops ups in GCP and all that, when you use some of these services, you don't have anywhere to go. You are just head in that straight jacket. You must be using that service as long as your service is running. So for you not to be locked in, you have to distribute your workload across multiple cloud service provider. And then the second one is downtime, right? The challenges enterprise have relying on a single cloud service provider is downtime, right? When one of the service provider, for instance, lose power or disaster or something happens to their data center or somehow, and then they have a downtime, it means that you are going to wait for them until they comes up again before your service starts running. But if you distribute your workload
if you are using multi-cloud, it means that if one goes down, there is a failover to another one, then your service is guaranteed 99.9% availability, right? And then data compliance, sovereignty issues, right? There is this GDPR, that is general data policy regulation, right? In EU, all the Eurozone, all the European Union laws, that guide personal and individual data, how individual data is processed and managed, right? And then we have SOC, I think it's for America, right? And then we have cybersecurity laws and policy in China, where they don't allow you to take the users data of any indigene of China. You must not process their data outside China, and you must not use the data outside China as well. So their data must be stored in China, processed in China, and then if you under Eurozone, your data also will be held in Europe and then processed in Europe. So if you using one cloud provider, for instance, if you are using maybe IBM and you are using Alibaba Cloud or Huawei Cloud or so like that, some of them don't have distributed data center across the world per se, then you will now find it challenging to process this individual to comply with those laws, because you don't have data centers in those areas where you can process their indigenous data. So this issues brought about adopting multi-cloud, because if you are using Azure and there's no Azure in China, you can plug in Chinese-based cloud provider like Huawei Cloud and Alibaba Cloud. Alibaba Cloud will be running one side, anything that has to do with Chinese indigene, Chinese process them on that cloud, right? And any other ones, the ones in Europe, you process them in Europe and all that. So if you don't use multi-cloud, you won't be able to achieve this agility, right? So these are the challenges. Enterprise face when they use and rely on single cloud. Now, this is what brought about cloud, why multi-cloud matters, right? It gives you resilience, right? It gives you resilience because when you distribute your workload across multiple regions, across multiple data centers and all that, right? One single failure will not result to your total application failure. One cloud service provider failure will not like bring your whole architecture or your whole workload down, right? And then performance issues, right? Performance issues, enhance global reach and performance. You know that when you browse data stores in America, for instance, in American's region, for instance, and you are browsing it from Nigeria, it has to be routed down to you, to your browser, or it has to be routed how to get to you. That's basically how you access those data, right? But to route data all the way from US down to you is going to affect performance because there's going to be latency, right? Now, with multi-cloud, you no longer need to hold those data there. You can have those data in the data center close to the user. We have the likes of Netflix, for instance. Yes, we have the likes of Netflix, for instance, and I'll use Netflix in another example. Netflix doesn't really have to push Nigerian data all the way from America data center down to us here, right? If that happens, latency will become an issue, right? Because before the data comes here, and then before we begin to interact with our data and all that, it's going to take time, right? So what they do is data is going to be stored in a region close to us, right? In a region close to us. If they are using AWS, you now be looking at edge locations and all that. Then Elasticsearch, for instance, to manage database, and there is also Cloud CDN. Yeah, CDN, yes, right? But those ones actually catch static data, right? They catch static data, to your edge locations and make you accept all those, but not your entire core application data for it per se, right? So adopting multi-cloud will help you distribute those loads, get it closer to the end user, and then the end user will have access to those data very fast. And then flexibility. Flexibility in a sense that you choose any service you want, no longer rely on a particular service provider, maybe like AWS, where you have to choose between RDS, you have to choose between their infrastructure, you have to choose between their Kubernetes, managed Kubernetes service and all that. And no, you don't have to do that anymore. You can run container-related application with GKE, and then your database can be run with another one. You can choose. You can choose between those. You can see the one that perform well, better for you, and then you choose any one you like, and then you have that flexibility. And even when you don't like, you can still switch, right? Then the last one is cost. Yes, cost is very important. Cost is very important. All the service providers somehow have their pricing calculator, right? And when you use this pricing calculator, you notice that the same service in one cloud service provider with another service provider platform are not the same, right? When you use the pricing calculator, you see that they are not the same. So if you're looking at cheap service, better offer, then you'll be able to look around. You check AWS service for a particular service, right? You check GCP for a particular one, and then you check Alibaba Cloud for a particular one. And I recently, that all those service providers, if you are in my part of the world, Nigeria, for instance, you spend Naira, right? And none of these service providers accept Naira. But one Huawei Cloud recently have started, I don't know, I'm not very sure about that, but either of Huawei Clouds or Alibaba Cloud have started accepting Naira. Do you understand? So it becomes easier for you. You can easily check your Naira equivalent of your workload on their pricing calculators and all that. So if pricing is your issue, then multi-cloud is the way out, so that you can check different prices before you select which one you want to take. Then we have issues with we have key benefits of multi-cloud. We mentioned most of these benefits, right? And one of it is redundancy and high availability, right? When you use your AWS is the category kings. Well, but when you talked about infrastructure, you give it to AWS, right? You give it to AWS, and then every other service provider, fine. You can decide to use other services in other service provider, but AWS should be like a de facto for your infrastructure. Then if you host all your whole enterprise solutions on AWS, yeah, you can use other service providers, maybe GCP or Azure, as your failover. In case AWS fail me, my application should run from Azure or should run from GCP. That way, you are guaranteed 99.9% availability, because there is no way AWS will go down, Azure will go down, GCP will go down at the same time, right? That won't happen. So those big tech companies you are seeing today, yeah, that's what they do, right? They have failover. If anything happens here, then the system should automatically roll over to the other service provider. Then we have performance optimization. Performance optimization. If you have used Facebook, if you've used Facebook, you know that when you access those, it looks like your data is very close to you and everything is very fast. You understand? And then if you use Amazon, if you shop on Amazon or Alibaba and all those ones, you see how fast you have response, you have. So this is what they were able to achieve across geopolitical zone, across regions of the world, right? The loading speed in America and all those ones, if your internet service, if your internet speed is the same, will always be the same, right? Because the data is actually very close to you. It's very close to you, leveraging on multi-cloud, right? And then cost optimization. Cost optimization is one of the key benefits, because you have the flexibility of checking round using their pricing calculator to check which particular cloud provider suit your budget before you put your before you run your application and all those ones. So pricing is very good. It's important. It helps you optimize cost, right? You can see that somebody who runs the whole entire architecture on AWS and you that is running multi-cloud, because you go and price how much is this service before you choose, you end up spending less than somebody who rely completely on one cloud provider. All right. Then you have enhanced security and compliance, right? You follow this guideline, this GDPR, that is General Data Protection Regulations in the Europe, that is European Union, and then cyber security. I don't know this acronym, but I think this SOC is for the US, right? And then China is Chinese cyber security regulation or something like that. So it ensures that you keep their data, because if you are caught, the fine is around 2 point something million, 24 point something million euro, a million euro, or that if you breach any of these rules in the EU, right? So what are the strategies for multi-cloud implementation? Before you implement a multi-cloud, you should first of all identify your business needs. What did I need to work to run this my workload? And then you need to know the profile of your workload, and then the compliance requirements, right? Like we've talked about different laws across countries, across regions. You should understand those laws before you adopt multi-cloud strategies, and then set up interoperabilities. Just have a single source of truth. That's what infrastructure as code will help you do, right? But you can look at Kubernetes, for instance. Kubernetes will help you orchestrate your containerized applications, right? And then you have it on one side, and then you use Terraform to automate the provisioning and managing of those infrastructure across cloud providers, because Kubernetes is cloud agnostics, likewise Terraform. And then Anthos is from Google, right? It's from Google, but it helps you to manage cloud migrations and every other deployment, right? Easily as well. So you should look at, so that you'll be looking at a component of your application, the containerized orchestration handled by Kubernetes. That can be on any platform, right? And then Terraforms and all those ones. And then monitor and optimization. Yes, you need to monitor what you provisions, what you run. You need to know how they are performing and all that, so that it helps you to take a proactive measures, right, against any issues, because you need to know how your application is performing in a GCP, different cloud provider, and then that will make you make informed decisions whether you need to change or you need to adjust something and all that. So you need a continuous monitoring can use Prometheus, Grafana, Datadog, and a lot of monitoring tools like that, right? Choose the right providers. When you consider cost, service, region, and compliance, ensure that you choose the right provider. And I'll give you one example, right? What enterprise do is AWS is already their de facto when it comes to infrastructure, right? But when you come to data analytics, they give it to GCP. All right. You see, when you Netflix, Netflix is one of the that utilize this approach. Netflix use AWS for their data streaming. I've forgotten the name of the AWS service for streaming. I've forgotten that service. Netflix use that service on AWS for streaming, and then use BigQuery on GCP for data analytics, right? And recommendation. All this recommendation you are seeing on Netflix. And it's actually a machine learning algorithms that give you recommendations, know what you like, kind of movie you love. Once you watch one genre, they always know the kind of movie you. So what the algorithm do is to study you over time, right? And also compare you with others who have made the similar choice before. If they like this kind of movie, they will like this kind of movie. So once you click one and you have watched, then they know what next. They know the kind of movie you want. And when you do the 2, the 3, the 4, as you go on, they know what you have watched before and they know next to show to you. So this analytics, they actually got it from previous interactions with the platforms and all that. And Google is very good at that, right? So that's why Netflix use Google for that, and then use AWS for their core infrastructure. Then automate everything. Yes. If you want to, that's why we are DevOps engineer, right? If you want to do everything manual, if you want to do anything manual, you want to configure this and do this and all that manually, it's prone to error. Right? Because these are complex architecture, complex and all that. But if you use automations, use CI/CD pipeline, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Can anybody? All right. Thank you very much. All right.
Yes, so, it looks like you are freezing a little bit.
All right. I think I'm getting a bad connection. So ensure you are automating to make your architecture error free, because when you use you have to use infrastructure as code basically to have a single source of truth, and then have your infrastructure definition somewhere in a code repository, in a CI/CD pipeline, that you know your infrastructure configuration, and you manage the version control system, and you are seeing it at every given time, right? And ensures that you are using monitoring tools to monitor the outcome of your entire architectures and all that. So these are the strategies you need for a multi-cloud implementation. It comes with challenges. There's a lot of challenges in adopting multi-cloud, right? Now, our first speaker have told us the importance of concentrating on one cloud provider. It means that if you are adopting a cloud provider, if you are adopting multi-cloud, you are going to have a specialist in AWS. You are going to have in GCP. You are going to have in other cloud provider. That is the way you can actually get the best architecture for your implementation, for your workload, basically. Because when you hire somebody who is expert in AWS, everything about AWS, takes care of it, right? And then when you come to GCP, everything in GCP, it takes care of it. So that's how big organization, Netflix, Google, big tech company you are hearing to, that's how they hire. They don't hire somebody as a AWS engineer, Azure engineer, and only you are the one that is championing all the cloud provider. No, they don't hire like that. They do specialists. You are AWS, you focus on AWS. And the way they even do their hiring, if you are on AWS, it's not like you focus on entire AWS. There's also a part in AWS that you follow, maybe infrastructure configurations, architect, solution architect part, then solution developer part, and operations part. You still choose part in all this one. It's not like you run the whole show in AWS platform, right? So in engaging all these individual specialized skills to manage each cloud provider, service provider for architecture is a challenge. It's challenging, right? It's challenging. It's one of the challenges, right? And then complexity of management. Yes, the complexity of management. When you aggregate all the platform services that you consume from each of the service provider, you see that your architecture has become so complex, right? If you don't have solutions like infrastructure as code, you don't have a central place where you manage all of this, it becomes a whole lot of issues, right? It's complex, and you just need to adopt something like infrastructure as code, like Terraform, to manage all this together for you. And then you can use HashiCorp. HashiCorp has a port that you can actually manage your secret keys and a couple of other things and all that. HashiCorp actually have Terraform, right? So they are cloud agnostics. You can use them on any cloud as well, right? And then data transfer costs. You know that these service providers, they are all out there looking for customer, right? They are looking for customer. And then you and I are their customer, right? So once you are in one, transferring data to the other one is a lot of issues, right? It comes with a cost. If you have S3, if you have S3 buckets with live data, you want to push to Azure, you pay for the data transfer. Of course, even anywhere you want to move the data to, you definitely going to pay, right? So you need to factor in those costs, right? So in order for you not to find yourself in situation where you need to be transferring data now and then from one cloud provider to the other, ensure you optimize your workflow, and ensure that you don't need to like be doing that, and that will minimize intercloud traffic, right? Then skill gap. Skill gap is what I talked about earlier. You need to continue training your staffs. You need to continue to undergo training to actually help your teams to master each of these services, how everything works together, and how to manage and run them effectively. Then we have security risk. Yes, it's security, because when you have your workload distributed, it's no longer in one place where you have to monitor them closely. It becomes a challenge, right? It means that you need to provide security for your service in Azure. You need to do for your service in GCP, AWS, and all that, right? So implement a zero trust architecture. Azure is very good with access management, right? Azure can handle your access management, security policies, and every other thing, right? Side of your architecture and all that, right? And zero trust architecture. The zero trust architecture is hardening your architecture and not relaxing any part of the security for any reason, right? So these are the ways you can actually go about overcoming the challenges. The last but not the least is best practices, right? Best practices. And the best practices is always design your application and focus on cloud native approach, right? For scalability and portability, right? Yeah, containerization is good. You can move your container from one platform to the other and all that. So you should be looking at that. Secure your architecture, encrypt data in transit and data at rest, you understand, and regularly conduct audits, audit your whole workflow and all that. Implement infrastructure as code. This is coming again. That's to show how important is infrastructure as code in our modern IT infrastructure deployment. Used to like Terraform. Yes, Terraform is still dominating in that space. CloudFormation and Pulumi, right? CloudFormation is on AWS. To help you define your infrastructure as code, right? You define them as if, you treat them as if they are softwares, and you manage them. You also manage their states, you get. So that's what it helps you to do. And it makes you provisions your infrastructure, your deployment faster, continuously monitor and optimize. Use monitoring tool like Prometheus, Grafana, Datadog, New Relic, or ELK stack to monitor your workload on regular basis. So these are the best practice. As you can see, yeah, some people may think that we have cloud CDN that actually catch your data to edge locations close to you, just catch data and all that. Elastic Cache for your database, and then CDN for your static, blah blah, for your static files and all that. But these are their use case. You can see the difference. You can see the difference. Why we have this service and multi-cloud is still important. You only static and dynamic asset is the only thing that your Elastic Cache and CDN can handle, right? It's the only thing that they can cache to your edge locations, right? But global compute scalability, they don't have that capacity. Multi-cloud does. Data compliance in multi-region, as we've mentioned with all those data regulatory agencies and all that across the world, CDN, Elastic Cache cannot help you with that, right? But multi-cloud will. Then you have disaster recovery and failover. CDN fail at that. Once you catch your data, you know, it's more, the data is more like a dead data. But the core applications that is residing somewhere, something can still go wrong with it. And once something goes wrong with it, your cache data can do nothing, right? So multi-cloud will still better. Optimizing costs, of course. This Elastic catching your data and all that has nothing related to cost, but multi-cloud does, right? And leveraging best in class service. Yes, when you talked about overall general service, core service, and all that. So it's multi-cloud that can actually render that's not catching your static data. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening. If you have questions, I'll be glad to answer them. And if you want to reach me on LinkedIn, I'm going to drop my LinkedIn, link to my LinkedIn and my Twitter. Thank you very much for having me. I'll be glad to answer your question.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel. And thank you very much also to Mr. Phillips. We really appreciate we really appreciate you. Thank you once again. And thank you everyone once again for taking out your time to be part of this event. So I would like to share my screen also and talk about some of our services in Bincom Dev Center here. So I'll be talking about that. Please get me to confirm if you can see my screen, please. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
we can see your screen. All right, thank you, everyone. So, like I said, the Bincom Dev Center is a multi-location technology talent development and solution platform. And I said we have our services in different locations. So I'll be talking more about our services in Bincom Dev Center. So while I'm doing that, I'll also be dropping the links to each services in the chat box. And also I will drop the feedback form so you can fill the feedback form and let us get your feedback from this event. Yes, so one of our services in Bincom Dev Center is Bincom Academy. So Bincom Academy utilizes the Montessori approach in training participants in basic skills needed for modern technology ecosystem. We have our Bincom Tech Internship, which is designed to enable the intermediate skills levels, gain mastery and expertise over a period of time. Also, we have our Bincom Tech Apprenticeship. This is an industrial attachment at various skill levels to gain experience on the job training. Also, we have our Bincom Tech Network, joining communities and community events and projects. Just like I said, that is just like the one we are having, the cloud hosting meetup. So it is geared at giving back to the community and building the tech ecosystem. They focus on informing and exposing the youth to the current technology trends and how to prepare them for future in technology. Also, we have our light space. This provides helpful workspace intended to encourage collaboration and drive innovation in the startup ecosystem. We have spaces that is created and designed for various events like seminar, conference, and get-together. Also, we have our Bincom Global Tech Program, and this is a solution to launch your tech career globally. It is a 1 to 2 year program focused on key pillars: learn skills, gain experience, and gain exposure. Also, we have our Emigrate Tech Visa. It helps you become globally attractive, tech profile or tech-enabled business, and it is your tech-enabled pathway to relocation and settlement in countries like UK, USA, Canada, France, and many more. We also have our Bincom monitoring platform, which is structured monitoring solution to help mentors add values to mentees for the purpose of building globally attractive techies. I guess you are listening to me, please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, please.
All right. So we have our Labs by Bincom also. It is a 3 to 6 month pre-incubator program that brings together participants to build a digital technology product, which will be used by real-life users. Also, we have our Bincom Tech Career Coaching. It helps individuals to land their next role faster by offering combination of coaching, relevance on the job experiences, career referencing, introduction to tech recruiters, and hand-holding through applications and interview process, and much more. Thank you, everyone. So we can proceed to the question and answer section.
All right, thank you, Harriet.
Yes, sir.
You can channel your questions to the speaker, right? You can as well drop your questions in the chat box and we'll read it out. If you have any questions, you can indicate by raising up your hands, or you can unmute yourself and speak. Thank you. All right. Is there no question? Is there no question? Is there contribution? No comments whatsoever? All right.
Okay. Sorry, just a quick comment on what Samuel. I mean, everything is said. I think it's I mean, I'm also learning too. I've just been working. I didn't know why companies, they really wanted you to have experiences on 1 or 2 cloud services, So I really want to say I appreciate. I've learned so much here too, because the IT journey is all about learning. Nobody is perfect. So I've learned more reasons why a company wants you to have these experiences on having multi-cloud. At least if you have one that is good, which you know very well, you should have another one too, to not just 10, So I really appreciate you, and I think it's I've learned so much from here today. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. We are glad to have you, and we really appreciate this. We really appreciate your presence, sharing your knowledge with us. It's very important, and we've learned a whole lot of things from you as well. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for honoring our invitation, especially. Really, really impressed. Thank you very much. For the others on the call, there is a link to Labs by Bincom Academy, Global Tech, and then feedback form as well. So you can do well to check them out. Check them out. If you have any questions, especially this feedback form is very important. It's very important. We need your feedback. Let's see how we can improve our sections. Let's see how we can improve our programs and all that, and share your opinion as well. Please do well to fill that form. Thank you very much, and have a lovely day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Samuel. We really appreciate it. Mr. Phillips, thank you very much for honoring our invitation. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone also for taking out of your time to be part of this event. We really appreciate it. Hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.